And we're live.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey Mel, how you going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, all right. We're in day 1,473 of lockdown in Australia, but it's just I'm okay. I am actually okay. I shouldn't joke because there's some people who are not, but I'm really good.
I'm so glad to hear it. It's life goes on amidst the pandemic and the ways we need to management, and work goes on. So we're
It
going to talk
does.
going to talk a little bit about that today. So Michelle, I wanted to bring up a topic. This is something that we hear from some of our podcast listeners and our members inside A Career That Soars, and that is emotional vampires.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know what our podcast is called, it's called Lead to Soar. Just an unashamed plug there. Yeah, the emotional vampires, those people who suck the emotion out of you and drain you, and you walk away going, "Oh, I got nothing left."
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's suppose we have, a hypothetical person like that is a colleague. How might you recommend someone managing that in their career?
Yeah, so it's interesting because if you look at, again, I'll kind of use myself as an example. I have a pretty hard and fast rule about emotional vampires in my life, in that I don't well, people would know me that I don't tolerate fools gladly, but I certainly don't tolerate negativity well. And it's been a trait that I've been aware that I have to manage myself through really well. So people who are the glass half empty style or persona, I have always struggled with, because you might have guessed that I'm a half full kind of person. And so I've had to manage myself really well around those people, because I get not everyone, we're not a homogenous group of people, right? So the first thing is recognizing what a negative person brings up in you and how you manage yourself. And then I guess it's about saying, so in my life, I got off track there. In my life, I try to minimize the amount of negative people I have to spend time with. And look, there's a whole bunch of science around it. And certainly when I was a very young manager, I was very fortunate to go on a kind of a retreat, a conference, and I learned about the impact that continued negativity has on you, on your body, and on your mindset. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on for you, which literally brings you down. So what do you do about that? And what if you do if it's the person who's your colleague that, I mean, for those of you who are sitting in offices, the person who's with you all the time, even if it's that one you go, oh, I've got to get on a Zoom meeting and so and so is going to be there and be negative talk and, this, that, and the other. I guess my first piece of advice is try and minimize the amount of contact you have with them until you have a strategy. Now, I would never, ever advocate for telling people to change their personality. But I guess there's always two sides to things. So if this person is always negative, it might be worth trying to get to know them better and establishing some kind of rapport or some kind of common ground, and work out how you can have that kind of, a more positive relationship, and how you might be able to contribute. Because, of course, there's always a story behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on for someone in their home life or outside of work. So, I guess the first thing is engage the greatness in the other thing. Okay, what might be going on for this person? And then, particularly if you're a manager of a person or people like that in your team, this is where you've got a real opportunity to have a conversation and help that person become aware of the impact their behaviour is having on others. Now, that behaviour could be just that they're a very quiet, kind of, don't have many positive things to contribute. So you might want to coach them into what are some good things that you can bring up, or some positive things that have happened. There also might be the person who likes to be the contrarian or create unhealthy conflict. And I think then you've got to really, as a leader, intervene with that person. But I guess if you're not in a position of authority and you kind of got these drainers, as I call it, in your life. Have a strategy to offset the draining, offset the emotional vampire impact by being around other positive people. So yeah, there's a whole bunch. I think the context is really important, is what I'm really trying to say, Mel, whether you're a leader of the person or a colleague. But mostly try and work out what's going on for that person, because there will be something going on behind the scenes. Whether you can do anything about it or not remains to be seen. But I think about engaging their greatness.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying there, because I might paraphrase as get curious, which is something that comes up a lot in our discussions, is get really curious about the other person and what's going on for them. And yeah, like you said there at the end, context is important. You need to be in a place where you feel emotionally comfortable enough to have that conversation, and you may be there today or you may not be there for months. So that's important to have self-awareness around that as well. Yeah. So let's talk for a moment about engaging the greatness in others, because of course that's part of the 3-part leadership definition that we use inside A Career That Soars. Leadership is using the greatness in you to achieve and sustain extraordinary outcomes by engaging the greatness in others. So maybe you could just share a little bit more with us about what does it really mean to engage the greatness in others? Well, it looks like I'm still live, but missing Michelle for a moment, because I know she was having some internet trouble. So, dear listener, I'll talk with you for a moment about engaging the greatness in others. So, this is leadership definition from No Ceiling, No Walls by Susan Colantuno, who is, of course, the founder of A Career.
I'm back, Mel. I'm sorry. I've got.
Oh, no worries.
My internet is not happy today. It's had an emotional drain.
No worries. I was ad-libbing there. So engaging the greatness in others.
Yeah, so engaging the greatness in others is, it is really seeking out their greatness. So what is their greatness? Well, as a human, as a leader, in workplaces, it's saying, well, really make an effort, a concerted effort every single time to seek out their greatness. And this is also about saying, what are the things that are, how do they contribute to your team, to your workplace? How are they, what are their personal attributes that are fantastic? How might they contribute more, or how might you recognize their contributions to your team achieving the outcomes that it's required to achieve? So the main thing around engaging the greatness in others is to suspend judgment and seek it every single time. So, yes, you may have some history with a person. Yes, you may have a view of them, but really say, well, okay, this week I'm going to make an effort to bring out the best and seek out that greatness and bring out that best of that person to help them shine and help them demonstrate their greatness.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great reminder, because I think a lot of times women are conditioned in particular to kind of put your head down, do your work, and, do a good job, and everything else takes care of itself. But as we grow in our careers, as we grow as leaders, it becomes much more important that we learn how to tap into the talent and engage the greatness in others and help the folks around us become the best that they can be. So I really appreciate that.
100%.
All right.
I have very sketchy internet here today, Mel. So I'm conscious that you're frozen on my screen and I'm probably frozen on yours, but the voices are happening, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, I can still hear you. All right. Well, we'll give it a wrap for today. It was so nice to connect with you, and a reminder to our dear listeners: don't just turn up.
You got to show up every single time.
Yep. Love it. All right. We'll see you in another week or so. We'll be live again.
Thanks, Mel. See you, everyone.